Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Be the Teacher. In this episode, we'll be talking about how you approach an acting challenge. This particular episode of Be the Teacher will deal with an acting challenge that you're doing on your own, but you'll find that many of the principles that we outline in this particular episode can be used for scenes that you do with other people. So let's get started. Let's start with one of your first challenges, Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. Just so you know, certain words, it's mimsy, barrowgroves, wabe and grabe, Jabberwocky, bandersnatch, jubjubbird, vorpal, manxome, tum-tum, uffish, tulgy, whiffling, burbled, snickersnack, galumphine, beamish, frabjous, calais, chortled. These are some of the more difficult words in the piece. So now that we've got that done, where do we go from there? How do we start preparing this for performance? First, we should start by analyzing the text, no matter the type of text it is, whether it was a script, a poem, or a monologue. As in all your scripts, look for the punctuation. What type of punctuation is it? How does the punctuation affect the line? A comma is a pause, while a period is a stop. An exclamation point is pronounced different than a question mark. All of this punctuation affects the way the lines are read. Notice the length of lines. How does the length affect the rhythm of the line when it is spoken? For example, in Jabberwocky, lines are cut in half. So where a line ends, you might put a slight pause, and that will affect the rhythm of the piece. Same thing in your script. Shorter lines create a quicker rhythm, while longer lines create a longer rhythm. So you want to look at the length of lines and see how that rhythm affects the line when it is spoken. Feel the rhythm of the conflict in the scene. Remember, all scenes involve a conflict. A character who enters the scene is somehow changed. That's usually because of a conflict of one character coming into contact with another character who has differing needs or desires. So, look at the conflict in the scene. What are the moments when we see that conflict, and how can you use your voice and your body to share that conflict? Provide the vocal changes that the speaker must go through. Create voices when necessary by adjusting pitch, tone, and rhythm. Remember, every type of character has a different pitch to their voice, tone, and rhythm. Older people talk different than younger people. Children talk different than teenagers or adults. So, look at the characters that are presented or the character that you are trying to create, and create the voices that are necessary by adjusting pitch, tone, and rhythm. Next, what is the author trying to teach us? No one writes something for nothing. What deeper lesson is he trying to teach you about life? Ask yourself, what am I as a person supposed to learn from this particular story? Don't look at what the character is supposed to learn. Look deeper than that. Get symbolic. How am I supposed to change my particular life after reading this particular piece, whether it is a scene, a poem, or a monologue? What are the adjectives that best tell us the overall mood and tone of the piece? If you don't know, adjectives are words that modify nouns. For example, his sword is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing. And vorpal is an adjective modifying that noun. So, again, what are the adjectives that best tell us the overall mood and tone of the piece? If you don't know, tone is the author's attitude towards the subject. So in other words, how is the author trying to make this particular person or creature look to the audience? And mood is the atmosphere of a piece of writing. It's the emotions a selection arouses in a reader. So after reading this, how do you feel about the particular subject? Are you feeling scared, nervous, excited, whimsical? What specific words support your findings of mood and tone? As you analyze the poem, you will come to conclusions. You will take stands and make choices on what certain lines mean. What specific words support your findings, and how can you emphasize them in the piece? Ah! It's the Jabberwocky! Get back! Let's go over here. Oh, finally. How does the speaker of the poem feel about the subject of the poem? Now, this applies to scenes too. Who's ever speaking, how does he or she feel about the thing he or she is speaking about? Is it love? Is it hate? Is it whimsy? These are just a few of the emotions that the speaker of a particular piece may be feeling. How can you express these emotions through the way your voice sounds and the way that you read a line? And as a performer, how can these words affect your performance to make it unique? You want your particular performance to represent your interpretation or the interpretation of the director. So how can you change your voice and your movement, which we'll get to in a second, to make your piece 100% you and unique? Underline these words in your poem so you emphasize them as you read. Change the tone and attitude to help your interpretation. Consider changing pitch and pace. All of this will make a great performance. But wait, we're not done yet. There's still so much more. Now you have to memorize. Oh, how and why do we do that? Okay, well here, let's look at our actress. There she is with her script. There's something you need to know. The script in your hand reminds you that you are in a play. By getting rid of the script, you will begin to lose yourself in the character, and you will also find it easier to experiment with that character, to take risks. Unit memorization is considered the best form of memorization. So how do we do that? How do we do unit memorization? Well, first, highlight or underline your character name and your cues all throughout the script. Repeatedly read your individual scenes aloud. Read the complete scene from your entrance to your exits, and if this was a scene including other people, you want to include the other character's lines. As you read, concentrate on the flow of the scene and the progression of ideas and emotions. If you analyze, like outlined in the last section of this video, you'll have an idea of those emotions and of the progression of ideas. Familiarity with the scene's purpose will allow you to keep going, even if someone messes up. That's the author's intention, what the author was trying to teach. So again, you want to know it. Now, read your own speeches with your own cues, just your parts and the cues. Repeatedly go over them, focusing on what your lines convey to the audience and how they further the play's progression. After repeated readings, you will find that lines start to fall into place, and you will begin to remember the unit as a whole. That's where they get unit memorization. I know that you are busy memorizing, but you also have to think about movement. You must use your body to make the performance interesting. Let me give you some rules about how to incorporate movement into your assignment. Rule number 1, don't pace. You also don't want to stand stiff. That's confusing, right? Don't walk back and forth, but don't stand stiff in one place. The other rules will help to clarify what I mean by this. Rule number 2, look to the script for directions or clues. Sometimes the script will have stage directions, or there will be certain words that you can highlight that reveal movement. They tell you how you're supposed to be moving at a particular point in the piece. Rule number 3, all movement must be justified. Shuffling your feet, fidgeting, or nervously moving at random is unforgivable. You should always have a reason for moving. This is one of the most important rules that I can give you. As you move around the stage, you must think as the character and have some sort of reason in your head as to why you're going somewhere or moving in a particular way. Rule number 4, an actor must carefully choose movements that quickly and clearly communicate an idea. It shouldn't take me a whole bunch of time to figure out what you're trying to do. Your movement should be quick and clear. Rule number 5, your movement must reveal and represent your character. A character's personality, attitude, health, and age are all revealed in movement. For example, an easygoing person moves differently from a nervous person. Youth's actions vary from those of older people. So think about your character that you're trying to convey and think about what movement will most appropriately represent that character. You may want to think of who your character is and go out into the community and observe people that have similar qualities to your character. Then you can make those characters your own and use them on stage. What is the most important rule? Well, of those rules that have to do with movement, rule number 3. I can't stress this enough. All movement must be justified. You should always have a reason for moving. Look to the script to find both the appropriate movement and the motivation. This is the process you want to go through when you are approaching any character. Analyze, memorize, physicalize. Like, look at this guy here. Look at the character he's trying to create. Sometimes you will do this on your own, and sometimes you will do this with the help of a director. And characters always look different. Can't you see how these two characters are different and how the different characters will read on stage? Only when you have learned how to go through this process will your mind be free to concentrate on dialogue and characterization. So make choices. Even if you are unsure, get sure and commit. Take a risk and a chance. And don't be embarrassed. People might have suggestions, but that doesn't mean you have to be ashamed about what you've shown on stage. If you go through this process, you should feel proud, and you will have taken the first step in developing a strong character. Then you can take the suggestions of your other actors, or most likely your director, and you can begin to make adjustments to bring the character to life in a way that suits the vision of the play. So that's it. Now you know how to approach a project. Like I said, this particular project you're working by yourself, but in future projects you may be working with other actors in a scene. I'll have a separate video on how to do that using many of these same techniques. Although this is more of a one-man or one-woman show, I've attached the Howcast on how to prepare a monologue. Their two exercises are somewhat similar, and it's a great video, one of my favorites. Again, it was posted on the Howcast website, and it includes all the information you may need to prepare a monologue. You'll find many of the techniques are similar between this video and that video, so just keep watching, and as an added feature, you'll see that video. So, I'm not going to say anything after that video's done, so I guess I should tell you now, thanks for being the teacher, and I'll see you at the next Be the Teacher.
How to prepare a monologue. Make your own luck by having a well-prepared monologue in your acting arsenal. You will need a monologue, a pencil, and your imagination. Optional, an improv partner. Step 1. Choose a monologue with a character that you connect with. Pick one that is 2 to 3 minutes long and engages the audience. Step 2. Define the character by writing down the character's history, relationships, education, occupation, income, hobbies, and important moments in their life. Improvise scenes from your character's life moments with a partner. Step 3. Establish who you're talking to in the scene. Picture a close friend or an imaginary person to give you the proper emotion. Take the monologue out of the context of the play or film. Step 4. Figure out what you want from the person you're talking to, known as intention or goal. Break down the monologue into beats or actions that you will use toward attaining your goal. Step 5. Avoid starting slowly and know what your character was doing and feeling right before the monologue starts, the moment before. Being prepared will erase nerves and make sure you make a good impression. Did you know? Released in 1927, The Jazz Singer was the first feature-length Hollywood talkie.